So we have a large asset, over 120 million pounds of uranium resources that's effectively sitting there about 25 kilometers away from our lithium deposit, which was a discovery only 2 years ago. And in about 9 months, we drilled off our first resource. It's a hard rock lithium project. 6 months later, we nearly doubled it. The kinds of projects that they want to own as their growth pipeline are projects that can scale up. Because at some point, a 20,000 ton per year brine project is going to become less relevant than a project that can keep 5 or 10% of the market.
Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. Here today with Alex Holmes, CEO of Plateau Energy Metals. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Saw you last year, I think.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. But you're here for the one-to-one again.
I am.
It obviously works for you.
Yes.
What's happening over there?
Oh, it's a great format as a way to speed date with investors or potential investors and directly interact as opposed to going through sort of traditional brokerage channels, if you will. Yeah,
absolutely. So are you here trying to find new investors or talking to existing investors?
We've had a mix of both.
Right.
It's the first day. So what we found is that we've got some new investors interested. The sector generally in lithium has been beaten up. So people taking a look, and then some existing, some newer investors as well that are.
You picked a couple of good ones, right? You got lithium and uranium, the double whammy this year.
It's geology speaks for it. Yes.
Right. In fact, before we start, let's do a 1 minute summary, and then we'll kind of get into the assets. Okay, so give us a 1 minute summary for people new to this story.
Okay, so Plateau Energy Metals listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange Venture Exchange under the ticker symbol PLU. Been operating in Peru for about 14 years. Started life out as a uranium explorer, and over a period of about 10 years consolidated a land package, discovered, drilled, expanded, and took it to a development stage story. Around the same time that uranium sentiment was changing. So we have a large asset, over 120 million pounds of uranium resources that's effectively sitting there about 25 kilometers away from our lithium deposit, which was a discovery only 2 years ago. And we discovered that through a series of prospecting and then ultimately a drilling campaign. And in about 9 months, we drilled off our first resource. It's a hard rock lithium project. 6 months later, we nearly doubled it. And we're a few weeks away from a preliminary economic assessment on that project.
Right. Okay. So let's deal with the lithium component first.
Sure.
Okay. The market's taken a bit of a hit. I think there's a lot of supply in the market, and the lithium company's not getting a lot of love at the moment. So what are you doing with your asset?
So, maybe I'll sort of address the first comment. So absolutely, the sentiment for lithium right now is pretty low. It's beat up. You look across the sector, and whether you're a large cap lithium chemical producing company, you're down 60% from your highs. If you're a junior resource company, early developer, you're down 80%. And that's a common theme across the space. The mid and long-term outlook is still very positive. And why that's positive is because downstream of the raw materials, when you look at the battery manufacturers and you look at the car companies that are electrifying their models, you've got almost $500 billion being invested. $500 billion doesn't get invested unless it needs something.
True, but I guess what I want to get at here for investors is to understand what your model, what your thinking is, because there is long-term demand is there. Well, let's go with the EV thematic. Everyone's a buyer, right? But the South American producers who can produce cheaply, and you read some of the banking reports, they're going to triple output in the next 3 years. So it's a question
if you believe that.
Sure, right? But if you believe that, or choose not to, it makes it a very difficult place for junior lithium hard rock miners to survive, doesn't it? So how do you deal with that? What's your thinking when you sit down with the board and say, right, come on, we got to solve this?
Because we discovered this project, and geologically it's different than it's not a spodumene deposit, and so we've invested a lot of time and resources in understanding the process route, and we've been able to identify a fairly straightforward process route.
Right.
But I think where the projects that will move forward, even in this environment, are projects that are large, that have the ability to start a reasonable size and scale up, and ones that can get to a lithium chemical product.
Well,
because if you look, Australia, they're not producing a chemical.
But you've also got to be economic, right? So
Absolutely.
Scale's one thing, right?
So for me, I think lower half of the cost curve. Right. So if you can have a project that's lower half of the cost curve, can scale up as the market grows, and can get to a chemical product. And what I mean by that is a product that retains 100% of the value of the end product,
Right.
as opposed to an intermediary product like a concentrate.
Right. So what do you know now, which is going to enable you to understand the economics anytime soon? So you can say to the market, give them some sort of guidance on that. So where are you?
Yeah, so we're a few weeks away from our preliminary economic assessment.
Okay.
We've worked with an Australian group on the metallurgical side. We've worked with a South African Australian group on the engineering and processing side, with deep experience in project builds and lithium. And where we think we'll arrive is lower half of the cost curve, somewhere mid-second quartile.
Okay.
If we look out to 2025, that's a very strong place to be. We will have a project that is I'm going to call it a reasonable sized project to start with, that can scale up to, in today's world, be one of the largest producers. Now, we won't do that irresponsibly and just blow our brains out by building something big out of the gate. And to be in that cost environment, and in a country like Peru, which is a natural resource company, they're the second largest copper producer in the world, gold, silver, zinc, et cetera, you name it. And you look at the other South American countries, it's a pretty attractive place for other companies.
It's an attractive place, but you've got some issues at the moment.
Yes.
What's happening? It's obviously knocked your share price when that announcement came out, right? So where are you with that? Is that a question of timing? Are you going to be able to get through that?
It's two things.
So explain to people what it is.
So the background to the situation we're dealing with right now, is the land package we have is 150 concessions, mineral concessions. 32 of those concessions last year were, it's currently being disputed, that we were late on payment.
Right.
And this is from the Geologic Administrative Group.
Were you not? No. Okay.
We were down to the wire, not through our own choice. We were down to the wire waiting for the ministry to give us the green light. We paid, and the Geologic Administrative Group that renews all your concessions every year. So we'd already renewed about 120 of them. We were waiting on this green light from the ministry on these 32. And once we had that, we paid. We did all the administrative accreditation application approval process, et cetera. But the receipts came after the closing time of the Geologic Admin Group, which is 4:30 p.m.
Okay.
Now the Geologic Admin Group...
Right, on the same day?
On the same day.
Okay.
So we received green light from the Ministry of Energy and Mines at just after 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Geologic Group closed at 4:30. We have receipts. You have 2 days to deliver receipts.
Okay.
So what we're in is it's called an administrative process. As part of that, we have to basically appeal to the higher levels of government to see through, I'll call it the noise we're dealing with right now, to find a resolution.
Right.
Alternatively, we follow a judicial process.
Right.
So we'll do both at the same time.
Do you think it will be resolved?
Yes, I just can't tell you whether it will be resolved administratively or judicially.
Do you think you could have done a better job at the time explaining this so it didn't impact on your share price?
No, because I think people would still react to the potential loss of a portion of our resources.
Right.
So if you look at a lithium deposit, it's about 45% of the resources.
Right.
So what that leaves us with, and we haven't lost anything at this point, just to be clear.
Right.
What it leaves us with is a smaller project.
Right.
But still a reasonable sized project. Okay? And it would impact part of the uranium project as well.
Okay.
So for us, we think we need to communicate to investors, here's a economic scenario that shows 100% of lithium project and a constrained version of that project.
Right.
So investors can go, okay, I know that this is worth on a constrained basis. These are unimpacted by these 32 concessions.
Right.
If it resolves in the company's favor, then it's worth this.
Okay, so you've got a process there telling that story to the market. You're going to do that, give some guidance as to where you think this thing's going to end up or what you're going to do or what the impact is. Okay, great. Should we talk about uranium?
Sure.
Because that's also there's no uranium producer who knows what's going on at the moment, right? I think that's fair to say.
None of them are making money.
Right, so I'm not going to ask you all the obvious questions about timing, okay? But so what is it that you've got? What do you know about your uranium component for this story?
So putting our 32 concessions aside, because 6 of them impact part of the PEA.
Okay.
So we have a large resource base that's near surface at an early development stage. One of the things we need the government of Peru to do, and they've already publicly stated they're working on this, is they don't have any other existing uranium mines. And so as an IEA member country, what they require is regulations around export and transport. And that's about the safe handling of yellowcake from the mine site to the port and port to a conversion facility in North America. Fairly standard if you're, a U.S.-friendly country, for example, you need to have these regulations in place. There's a radioactive mineral law in place already. That's part of the mining code, but it's those last two pieces that are needed.
Okay. Timing?
Vice Minister, as of 2 weeks ago, came out publicly, of Ministry of Energy Mines, publicly said first or second half of 2020.
Okay, so reasonably imminent, and given the precarious state of the uranium market at the moment, it's kind of a moot point, right?
Yeah, it's a care and maintenance project right now.
Exactly. Okay, so your time and effort is being spent on what?
Our lithium project.
Right. And when I say that, I'm like, are you spending money on that or time polishing it?
We've stalled capital deployment, other than the PEA work.
Yeah.
We've stalled capital deployment on the ground.
Right.
As soon as the concession issue arose.
Right.
So we were...
Why did you do that? Was that kind of to make them listen and go, hang on, we're not spending money till this gets resolved?
Yeah, I think we need to properly understand and appreciate who or why what has happened.
Right.
Because when you look at the facts and the chronology of events, it's pretty clear.
You're saying it wasn't a major crime. It wasn't a major thing. It was not big enough for them to have reacted the way that they did. That's the premise of your argument?
I think it was someone saw an opportunity. We'll put it that way.
Right. Okay. So someone local with what?
Perhaps.
Let's not go.
We don't need to go there.
Let's not go there. Okay.
This is South America.
It is South America, and there's some countries that are better than others. We're talking to a large, very large, $15 billion large family office there, and they only operate in 4 countries in South America, and they're local. So yeah, you got to pick who you play with and where you play. I agree with that. Okay, so that says to me you are, apart from the PEA work, slightly frozen in what you can do. You've got uranium on kind of lockdown at the moment.
Yeah, and you asked this previously. It's really also part of the messaging to the government.
Yeah,
is you have publicly stated many times you want lithium extraction in Peru.
Yeah,
you see this as a great potential to one of the poorest regions of Peru, et cetera, et cetera. Well, guess what? If this isn't resolved, there's not going to be development for 10 years in lithium.
That's the thing. That's what I was asking. It's like, is this right? Okay, we're going to give as good as we get here. I'm going to make you listen. I'm going to make you take note. So, I mean, it's quite aggressive.
We have to be.
Right.
It's I would call it equivalent to, it's a game of chess where you have to be very calculated in all of your moves.
Okay.
It's not me standing on a podium and pounding the table is not going to resolve this.
Right. Okay. So talking of chess moves, let's look at the share price. So share price took a bit of a hit, obviously. You've got 2 pretty tough commodities that you're into at the moment. What are the conversations that you and the board are having about how you keep this thing going, or how do you drive share price? I mean, what are the things that you can affect, and what are the things that you can't affect? Clearly, commodity price is one, but how do you drive this thing?
I think one of the fortunate positions we're in is about 45-50% of the company is held by cornerstone shareholders and insiders.
Right.
The last financing was 2/3 insider financed.
Right.
And 1/3.
How much cash have you got now?
About $500,000.
You're $500,000. So you're it's tight.
We're okay for this interim period, but we're not robust in a robust cash
what
position.
are you burning a month? What's the G&A?
We're about $50 a month.
Okay, that's quite low.
On a no work program.
Right. So, but you're going to have to come back to market when you. I guess I was going to say when. I guess when you know a bit more.
Well, and I think for us and the way we're thinking and strategically, how do we keep the project moving forward without blowing up the capital structure? Yeah. For me, strategic investor is the next key step. And why do I think that? It's because the strategic side doesn't care about the current lithium sentiment.
No, absolutely
because they're looking much longer term.
They're tying up.
And we have something that isn't tied to politics in Argentina, isn't tied to constitutional changes in Chile.
Right.
Yes, we have our own issues.
Okay.
But it's still a large project.
But why would a strategic come and look at you? You know, they're seeing what's going on. You're explorer, effectively. You're just doing a PEA, so that's give or take plus or minus 30% in terms of accuracy of right. There's a bunch of other people. If you want to tie up lithium, there's got to be better assets than you guys, isn't there?
I don't see any spodumene projects being developed today.
Okay.
Because you look at a spodumene project, you control about 35% of the value chain, right? By selling a concentrate. I'd say we're still dealing with a very small space. Lithium market's $3.5 billion market a year. Great growth forecast trajectory. Sure. But when the strategics are sitting there going, some of it ties to energy security. Right? 85% of lithium chemicals are controlled in China. Europe's building a battery supply chain. The U.S. is waking up to the fact that Europe's ahead of U.S. right now. And they don't like the fact that right now, so much is controlled in China. And so you're starting to see energy security as an emerging theme. And so the strategic investors are also looking at this going, well, I could lose market share or I can maintain market share. There's 4 big players in the space. Right. And then you've got the trading companies. And you've got companies that understand where they want their business to be, not tomorrow, but in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years.
But you're not having conversations today. This is theoretical at the moment. You think
these are
strategics.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of our job, is to make sure strategics are aware of our project. Right. And where its attributes are. Okay. And I think what you're seeing, there's been an acceptance in the lithium producer space that the kinds of projects that they want to own as their growth pipeline are projects that can scale up. Because at some point, a 20,000 ton per year brine project is going to become less relevant than a project that can keep 5 or 10% of the market.
Sort of answers the next question, which is why would investors pick you versus lots of other lithium players versus lots of other junior miners in a bunch of commodities. I mean,
so the project's one thing, right? There's lots of small projects that never become what I would call projects with a capital P.
But you're kind of there at the moment, aren't you? Isn't that where you're at?
Well,
in the sense that I'm not sure the market understands your story well enough at the moment to make that call. Or do you think that you've
totally agree, which is why I think the PEA is very important.
Okay.
And then the second piece of that is people, the people involved, right? So when you look at our board, you look at our management team. Look, we don't have a deep history in lithium, right? But we have a deep history in building mines. And advancing projects and financing projects. You look across our board and you've got operators, mine builders, and financial people. So we've got a good cross-section. Obviously, we need to evolve that team as we evolve. But today, we've got a team that can quite easily move it through the various different phases.
And what are your hopes for uranium then? You obviously, you've not got in lockdown, but I guess you're sitting quietly waiting to see what happens. Would you then offload the uranium project, or would you then go and raise some money to develop it?
I believe that they're 2 very different commodities with different investors. And
different management skills required, right?
Different management skills, and I think what we will do once we see the regulations in place and we see a sentiment shift, because we need the sentiment to change in uranium, then it makes a lot of sense for us to possibly spin it out
or commercialize that in some way. Beautiful. Okay, Alex, unfortunately we have run out of time and you've got to rush back and talk to investors next door. So appreciate the update. That's fantastic.
Thanks very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, please click the button in the corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also catch us on our website, cruxinvestor.com, and Cruxcast, our podcast series. Plus, most days you can catch us on LinkedIn and Twitter. We'd love getting your feedback, so please keep that coming, and we'll speak to you again soon.